What's up, everybody? It's Austin back at you with another episode of the Book of Austin Life of Detours podcast. We are officially on episode 69 today, which is going to be one of my favorite episodes. It also happens to be episode 99 total of the podcast between Granny's Garage, the intro episodes, the part ones, part twos, all that stuff. It's episode 69 and episode 99 today. And I'm sitting down here with Mr. Christopher Johnson from the Passion Podcast. He is a podcaster, entrepreneur, artist, all these different things, and just a podcaster that I have kind of latched onto as somebody that I've been watching, like throughout the bit of the journey that I've seen, and somebody that I have talked to, one of my only people that I have talked to about podcasting, and the actual first podcaster to be on my podcast. So, Chris Johnson, how are you today, sir?
Dude, so good. Thank you for welcoming me on. I didn't know I was such an epic episode number.
I'm so excited, dude. I was trying to keep that from you, like during our little conversation earlier, because this is just, it's really exciting right now.
Yeah. Dude, I feel like that Budweiser Select sign, you need to get a custom Austin sign, Book of Austin, that could be in the background right there. With the coloring and everything, I just like with your shirt, I feel like that's what that should be in the background.
Dang, dude, I didn't even realize those are like so similar.
Yeah.
You think I could just like dismantle this one and put this stuff on it? Probably.
Probably. You could take that shirt actually and just cut it out and then frame the t-shirt.
Ooh, there you go. Nice.
Then you have the sign, man.
I just wish this sign, I think it has like a short in it or something like that, so it just kind of blinks oddly. I can't get it to stay on. They make those
like custom neon signs for relatively inexpensive these days.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. My buddy Rico had one.
Yeah, and $200, you could be pro. In general, you have the whole background. Like, look at all that useful space. You could put up, like little advertiser things. You could put up pictures of your guests. You could put up whatever you want.
Oh yeah, dude. I have so many little knickknacks back here that I would absolutely replace with stuff that was useful.
Yep. Now after this episode, now's the time. No, things
are these are the ideas, man.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on. This is rad. This is the latest I've ever recorded an interview, I think.
Really?
Yeah, 10:14 p.m.
This is some of the earliest that I've recorded. Honestly, this is actually right on par for my podcast.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I have two daughters, 7 and 10. So I'm a early to bed, early to rise kind of guy for the most part. And I do all my interviews in person. I don't do remote interviews for my own show. And people don't want to meet up in person at 10 p.m. to record, really. Not the people that I interview anyways. They're
exactly,
you know what I mean? I'm doing it before a show or something or whatever. They want to be at home with their families too. So this is late for me, but things are good. I'm up in the cold. Sounds like it's cold down there too. But I live in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is about 90 miles east of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So central Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's cold, dude. My car wouldn't start today. Just because it's cold. Yeah, it was -15 or something. I don't know, -20 with wind chill. Jeez. It was nasty. So I've just been inside a lot. I travel a lot. I was in Australia in November. Yeah, November. Going to Costa Rica here pretty soon. But the last month and then all of this month is just me sitting inside, spending way too much time editing podcasts.
Yeah, because it just stays cold there, huh?
Yeah.
Like this is the coldest that we're gonna get, so like we should enjoy it, quote unquote. You know, like everybody's freaking out. All the supermarkets are completely destroyed right now, and like everybody is like
end of the world.
Everywhere closed. Schools shut down, everything, and like there wasn't any snow. Like there was a little bit of snow. There wasn't any ice on the roads or anything like that, hardly. But the whole place shuts down.
Yeah, no, we have to power through, man. Honestly, until they started doing until the pandemic, they wouldn't close the schools unless it was really bad. Because if they close it, they have only certain number of days that are like set aside for snow days. Like they're allowed to have, and I'm making up a number, like 8 per year or something like that. And if they go beyond that, then they have to go school. Like school has to go further into the summer.
Right.
No one wants to do that. So they push through that. When I was growing up, it would take a lot I remember one time it was with wind chill, but even so, it was -40.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how nasty it gets around
Yeah,
here.
there's no heating up a school bus when
No.
that's going on, man.
No, this morning, like I had my kids really bundled up for the 5 minutes they had to wait for the bus because it was negative, whatever in the morning. It was probably -12, -15 or something at
Yeah,
8
that's
o'clock
enough to
in the
like
morning.
chap you out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nasty. So it gets really cold. But I wish winter wasn't as long as it is, but I like having seasons, I
Yeah.
like the change of things throughout the year. And one thing is like I've traveled a lot. I've been to a lot of major cities and stuff, and I've done interviews in like Austin, Texas. I've been down there to do interviews in New York and LA and stuff. And where I live is so cheap that the amount of money I save living here, I can then afford to just go on vacations through the winter.
Yeah.
And I'm self-employed. I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to go anywhere. So
Yeah.
most people, they have to go to their job all winter long. Me, like,
Mhm.
nah, dude, I can go take a week and go to LA, or take a week and go to Florida, or take whatever. Or, I can sit inside all day, and then I can sit in my hot tub and then come out in front of my fireplace and sit there. I could paint for a couple hours. I don't, like I have it pretty good as far as like being in a cold location. So
Yeah. That's wild, man.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the perks of the job, man. So
Mhm.
before we go any further, I do want to just give you an intro. I feel like it's been so long since I've done this. I've been doing so many like little like bonus episodes or just kind of fun episodes. I have the Granny's Garage episodes I do with my sister, which is like a totally separate deal from the Detours podcast. It's just where we sit down and like basically just kind of like sit down, smoke, drink, and just get kind of crazy and just talk about the things that are going on in life with like the podcast and work and everything like that. And my
Yeah.
sister is just an absolute nut. Rachel is just, she's crazy, man.
I
But
never understood those. Like, I never got it. I interviewed this dude, Sam Talent, which he's an incredible comedian. If you aren't aware of him, you should be aware of him. He has a special on Amazon. He has another comedy special that just came out on YouTube that got over a 500,000 views in the first like 6 days. He's really good. And he had an episode on Joe Rogan, but the podcast you got to listen to with him is with me, obviously.
absolutely. Yes.
Recently.
It's a perfect little like 50 minutes, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. It was right before his show, and then I got to go like be backstage with him at his show right after, and he crushed. He was so funny. That was the funniest stand-up I've ever seen in person. But anyways, I was listening to podcast interviews with him to try to like learn more about the guy before I interviewed him, because a lot of times I interview people that I wasn't super familiar with until I found out they were coming through the area, and then I learned about them. But I was listening to him, and he has a podcast, and it's called Chubby Behemoth. It's him.
Yeah, that's on par. Yeah.
Yeah, that are both a large men. And I asked him about this. I think it was off mic. I asked him. I was like, dude, I've never understood, like, why do so many comedians do podcasts that are about nothing? Like, there's no subject. You talk about nothing.
It's all banter, man.
Yeah. And well, it is. And I was like, but what's the point? Like, it's funny. I guess, like, it is funny, but like, what's the point? Because that's not the type of thing I would personally listen to. Not that it's bad. And he's like, dude, it's improv. And that was like a light switch went off for me. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. You guys are purposely working on improv. That's the point of doing it with other comedians, is to like come up with jokes inadvertently because you're just doing improv. It's an improv performance of a podcast. I never got that. It never clicked with me. I always thought they were just talking about nothing for no real reason. And I'm like, why are you putting all the time and energy into making this at all? Why does anyone care? Besides the fact that it's funny, but really there's nothing, you don't even know what they're going to be talking about. But when he said that, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
That makes so much sense, dude.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And I've been doing a podcast like that. And those are actually some of my favorites, like Two Bears and Matt and Shane and stuff like that. Those are some of the funniest ones for me. Like, you never know what you're going to get kind of deal. And then I don't know who was, I think it might have been Rogan was talking about it. Like he was talking about Theo Vaughn, I think, and how that's where like his solo podcast and like some of these ones where he just goes in like just banters with people. Like that's where he pulls a lot of his material from, and it's like a little gold mine of just like all these little clips and like things getting the gears going for him, you know?
Yeah. No, like I said, I didn't really understand what the reasoning was.
Yeah.
For me, it was a little maddening because I listened to so many of those when I'm like researching a guest. I'm like, dude, I'm not getting any helpful information.
What am I getting into here, dude?
Yeah. I'm just like listening to you guys talk about nothing. But I was listening to the Joe Rogan episode of Sam Talent. They went on and on about the Dalai Lama licking a boy. And I was like,
oh
what
my gosh, I remember that, dude.
Yeah, I was like, what are you even talking about? I've been listening to you talk about the Dalai Lama for 15 minutes, and I need to learn about Sam Talent. Like, I don't care about Yeah.
Well, the good thing about Rogan's is you probably have 2.5 other hours to learn about
dude, I
Sam
gave
Talent.
up. I couldn't make it through the whole thing. I didn't have unlimited time.
You don't have the time, yeah.
It was like I want to actually learn something about him. So I listened to other podcasts. I got enough info, but no, I mean I get it. Like as far as like it just being funny when you don't have a story you're trying to tell, like obviously it leaves the door open for more comedic relief and leaves the door open for a lot of sweet one-liners. Like
definitely
blow up on the internet, dude. Like I'm learning more about like YouTube Shorts and stuff. If you can just get sound bites that talk about celebrities and outlandish shit, like that's how you go viral. Is that realistically going to get you sustained listenership that like cares about you or what you have to say?
Right.
Maybe not, but will it get views? Probably.
It's going to be a little pop for you there, yeah.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of things said on Granny's Garage that might pop a little bit, honestly.
Yeah, dude. No, one of the clips that did pretty well from my interview with Sam Talent that I cut was in it. I was like, so were you just nervous like going into that interview? Because it's like the biggest interview, right? Yeah. And he's like, dude, I drank this like quadruple shot like coffee energy drink. I was just trying not to shit my pants the whole time. And I was like, well, he didn't let you go to the bathroom? And he goes, no. I said, what do you mean? He goes, dude, 3.5 hours I spent with Joe Rogan. No bathroom breaks at all.
Yeah.
And I just like laughed. And like that was basically the clip I cut and I put it online and then it just
that's so perfect. Yeah.
And then people are like, Joe Rogan gives bathroom breaks, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
He gives himself bathroom breaks. That's what he does. I've noticed that actually.
Yeah. Well, Sam actually told me though, he was being real. He was like, dude, his security told me if he takes breaks, it's because he doesn't like you. I did not try to take any breaks. Like I wasn't going to be the one to bring it up.
There you go. Nice. Yeah. If this train's rolling, let's just keep it going, dude.
Yeah. Or another clip that went well. He said he did some stuff for with Will Smith for TV. And Sam Talent's just hilarious. But out of nowhere, he's like, dude, I spent 3 days with Will Smith and that guy doesn't have any scent.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. That was like, what does he mean like, by that exactly? Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, he has no odor. He doesn't smell like laundry detergent. Doesn't smell like anything. He's just odorless.
No deodorant, no nothing. Like,
and I was like, what?
That would weird me out, like, probably.
That's the kind of perfect clip on the internet. That's just like hilarious because, like, what? I never expected to hear that, like, ever.
You know right? I mean? When you think of Will Smith, like, that's not something I would have thought of.
I would never like Google it or search it, but like
I don't think that about anybody though.
No, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Apparently, I got to interview more comedians so that way I can cut out more random clips. But they're not all that funny when they interview, dude. Like I interviewed a couple other comedians that are pretty big. Those episodes are coming out real soon, and they're hilarious. Like you watch their stand-ups, but in person during the interview, they weren't as like playful, like yeah, not necessarily fully serious. But they weren't like playful one-liner like kind of people, which didn't make the interviews bad, but they're not as like clip worthy.
It's not like as much of like a comedy, like bubbly, like crazy fun interview, you know, like, maybe it's like they kind of like had more of a professional view to it, I guess, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of it is neither of them do podcasts or improv.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think that's probably part of it. Because they're both big, like the episode's coming out because they'll be out probably around the time this comes out, or I don't know when this comes out, but Dina Hashem, she just had a special come out on Amazon called Dark Little Whispers, but she's pretty big. You look her up on social media. And then Sean Patton, who he's been around forever.
He's pretty big.
Recently. Yeah. So his episode's going to be coming out in a few weeks as well. but neither of them do like improv.
Yeah.
They both, and I talked to them about their comedy. They both like write everything, and that's where their passion and joy comes from. Like Dina is one of the writers for the Daily Show as well.
Okay.
But like they like writing. It's not improv. It's totally different. So when I interviewed them, if you didn't know they were comedians because that was their profession, you wouldn't gather that simply because of like their demeanor or the way they talk.
Yeah. Interesting. Like I guess there are those types that are like writers by heart kind of deal, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the way they communicate is different. Like I said, people, you know, like I was telling you before we were interviewing, people are different. Like their social media, you know, their on camera face isn't the same as who they are, you know, necessarily. I'm not saying it's totally fake. But a lot of times it's just like there's a filter on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're louder when they're on camera because that's the persona they want to be. If they're smart about it, some people play a character and do it well. But generally speaking, if they're smart about it, it's just an extension of who they are.
Right.
It's not a lie. Because if it's a lie, that's a hard thing to keep up all the time.
Yeah.
But if it's an extension of them, that's something a little bit more sustainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when they're on camera, they know to kind of like turn up the personality.
Mm-hmm.
When they're recording a music video, when they're on stage or whatever, they know to turn up that personality, but still with them.
And they don't have to like rev at those RPMs all the time.
Right.
Which can be exhausting.
Right. But when you take them out of that, you know, platform that they're used to, they don't necessarily know how to act.
Yeah.
Right. Because
you're catching them idling, you know?
Right. Exactly. Because you think like this person who's crazy on social media,
always on.
Yeah. They're not like that when they're like having breakfast at their parents' house.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's a performance to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So what are you going to get from them when you interview them?
Yeah.
It's hard, man. Our job as podcasters is difficult. People think you just like sit down and talk to people, which sounds great. And it is fun.
It's very
fun. But if you want to be good at it, dude, it's a skill. It takes a lot of preparation. It's stressful. Like, you know, you get desensitized to a certain degree, but like it's public speaking. You know, anyone who's given a speech, when you're recording an interview, you're aware that there's a certain number of people that are going to listen to this or watch it. So like, you know, you're on camera.
And there's a potential for more than you expected as well.
Right. And it's public speaking, but it's not something you just write a speech for. Mm-hmm. Right. It's something that you have to like go into it, try to be as prepared as possible with all these variables that come through the door with the other guest, like with the other person that you're interviewing. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to my partner, Mary, about it. And she was telling me, like, we were driving somewhere and she was talking and she had listened to the most recent episode or something, which my girlfriend doesn't just sit and listen to my podcast all the time. But she had listened to one for whatever reason. And she's like, yeah, I wish you would have asked this thing. And I was like, dude, yeah, me too.
Yeah, now that we're thinking about it, yeah. Right.
It's like, but in the moment, I didn't know where that conversation was necessarily going to go.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote a roadmap ahead of time of general questions. Like, this is kind of what I want to ask. And I take like commercial breaks during my show, and I put in songs when it's on the radio and stuff, because my show's on the radio where I live. So I have a chance to kind of like look back over my notes, but it's not a prepared performance that I like know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I have to kind of just go with it the best I can. Some people are really easy to interview, like Sam Talent was. Yeah. Some people aren't. And then when I look back on it and I'm spending hours and hours and hours editing, I'm like, man, I went on the longest monologue there that was totally useless. But because it segued into something that wouldn't make sense if I cut it. So now I know that this monologue I don't even want it to be in there is going to be in there. Or there's a time I could tell that I like lost my train of thought. So I had to fill the air with fluff or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a skill that you work on and you slowly get better at, but it's never going to be perfect. And I think with people like Dina and Sean, they don't want to be in a position like that. That's why they don't do improv.
Yeah.
They want to write out and like practice their performance, dial it in, and then go on stage and just kill it.
They want to be the most prepared that they can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where they're comfortable. You know what I mean? And it would be great if I could be, but that's not necessarily how it goes. So
I was going to ask you, do you have the same problem that I have whenever you go into one of these, like you go in and then all of a sudden, like everything, and I tried stand up a couple of different times. And I remember the second you hop up there, everything just goes like it's just gone. You know,
Mm.
like all of the bits that you had ready to go, you thought were completely dialed in, or like I go in and like I go to talk to somebody and I have all these questions that I thought were like cemented in there. And then whenever I go to talk to them, the conversation leads its way around and they never come up.
I don't know. I don't really run into that. I don't know. I mean, you've been doing it a long time too, but I guess I like to think of it as like, I know the destination of where I'm trying to go. I know the general story, right? But it's not a highway that's straight from point A to point B. It's a river that's moving around.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if the river's going too far off, I need to take the fork in the river that's heading back in the right direction. So I have to keep course correcting throughout the interview. So that way it never gets too far away. But another thing I learned, like,
it's a life of detours, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. But there, you know, another thing that I learned was that if I try to stick to my questions too hard, I'm focused on what I'm going to say next and not what they're saying. Right.
Yeah.
And what I realized, and this kind of happened when I started doing video, because I could no longer really make cuts without it being obvious. So it's like I kind of had to just like be looking at them and not looking at my notes.
Gotta let it flow. Yeah.
Yeah. But what I realized was if I'm actually listening to them, whatever question I'm curious of based on what they're saying is probably the same question the listener has.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
I need to listen and go intuitively of, well, what would I want to know based on what they just said? Because that's also what the listener probably wants to know. Now that comes in with like a anxiety of, God, I hope I'm thinking the right thing in that moment.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of pressure on myself to come up with that in the moment.
Because it's a to each their own kind of thing, you know?
It is. Yeah. But it comes relatively naturally. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And some guests, again, are just easier at interviewing than other people.
Oh,
some
absolutely.
people, you lead them into a question, you know, and they run with it and they're incredible. And you don't even really have to say much because they're so entertaining. Other people, you'll set up a question like beautifully. Yes. You'll give your whole version of what the question is, your story of it, to paint the picture for them. And you hand it to them just like ready for them to take off.
On a platter, yeah.
Oh, yeah, same. I had something similar. And you're like,
can you elaborate? Yes.
Yeah,
dude.
and they're like, well, it was just that one time.
I always think of this guy. I did an interview with a guy. I thought he was one of my friends here, and he was a barback of mine. And like he's done so many different jobs, and he's such a crazy personality. Anytime you talk to him, and every time I would ask him a question, the first thing was he was horrible with the microphone. Like he'd be like over off to the side.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man, I was doing this and this and this, and then he would just give like these like few word answers, and then he gave me a time constraint whenever we started the podcast. So I was trying to like pull this information out of him. And then within the last like 10 minutes, he tells me he's a flat earther. I believe it was like Scientology or something like that. And I had like 5 minutes to try and like pull some of this information out of him. After having 2-3 word answers the entire time, he gets so excited about this stuff. And then all of a sudden our time's gone. I'm like, dude, like I worked so hard to get to this point that we could have started at, kind of deal. Yeah.
Well, I've had people tell me like when they want to go listen to the show or whatever, they're like, yeah, I'll start at the beginning. And I'm like, don't do that. Like, do I think the first episode ever was horrible? No, I don't think it was horrible. I think it was okay. But each episode is its own thing. There's no reason to listen to the episodes in order. It's not like there's like a progression of stories, a progression of quality and my skill level, I suppose, to a certain degree. Would you notice it over a period of time? But like,
would you notice it?
I would notice it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, just listen to whatever guest sounds interesting, because the reason I say that is some of them aren't going to be good, man. Like it doesn't really matter how good you are of an interviewer if the person's just not good at speaking. Like there's only so much you can do. There's some interviews, and I'm not going to point out which ones because I don't want to throw them under the bus.
Shit on any of your guests.
Yeah, but like there are some, like as an example, Sam Talent was an exceptionally good guest. Yes. He was just really interesting without me.
It just felt like it meshed so well.
Exactly. Did I feel like I did a good job with the interview? Totally. But like he also made it really, really easy and was really interesting. Yeah. Not every person I interview is going to be as good of an episode. So it just is what it is. Sometimes you have to chalk it up like afterwards and go, well, I did the best I can. Hopefully I'm a slightly better interviewer in the future now. Because if I run into these things, I'll know how I'll navigate them. And that's just not the best episode ever. And it is what it is. There's 68 more.
You know and we're here, like we put out content. Like
right.
Sometimes I put out episodes that like I'm not like even during the interviews, I'm like like my energy wasn't all the way there. Maybe their energy wasn't all the way there. And like like you can feel it whenever you go to edit it and things like that. And you're like, but this is the content that I had. And like, I put a lot of work into this, and it's still, if it's not my 100% best episode, it's like a 60%, and like, I still would stand behind it somewhat,
Well, and you keep getting better, right? Because a year from now, a 60% of your best is going to be better.
100% that you had before.
Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. So like, you keep doing that. And the other thing is like, there's this whole self-love movement, and I'm all about it. Like, I get it. But the big thing is like, dude, just if you're doing the best you can, like, stop being an asshole to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, the best you did the fucking best you could, dude.
You're your biggest critic.
Yeah, dude. I beat myself up all the time. And one thing I have to remind myself when I watch some of these ones or listen to them and I'm editing them and I'm being critical of whatever, it's like, I did the best that I could in that moment with what I had, period. Yeah. Maybe I made a mistake somewhere, whatever. I was too tired, or I was whatever the thing was. Still, in the moment, I did the best I could at that point in time. For the next one, I know what I'm going to do better. So that way my best is going to be better. But it already happened. Like, I did the best I could in that moment. It happened. Yeah. I'm happy with it.
Yep. This is what I have. This is what I have.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to get either way, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's podcasting. It's not an album.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, you don't get a bunch of takes to try to make this thing perfect. And
yes, it's almost as live. It's not live, but it is.
It's fairly close to live.
Yeah, there's only so much editing you're going to get, really. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to edit out a ton,
Yeah, I'm not going to go in and make this thing like short little choppy bits of like small conversations here and there,
Yeah. Which honestly though, that's kind of the move. Like, it's the move when it comes to like YouTube and that type of thing.
Yes, for
sure.
What I
mean? Yeah. Cutting out segments, saying like, from this episode. Yeah, from this episode, right? Like, you could cut out a segment that said like, or Chris talking about, Chris's interview with Sam Talent. And that's a 3-minute segment. So people are, when they're looking, it's like, oh, I'm interested in that particular portion of this interview, because I don't want to watch it 90 minutes or whatever, the situation.
Whatever we end up at, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how it is with all these YouTube shorts and stuff too. It's like, you can, after the fact, you can cut all of these. And realistically, if you're doing it right, you're going to get way more people that are going to watch just the clips than you are going to listen to the entire episode.
Oh, absolutely. So, some of my clips have as many episodes or as many views as like a good collection of the episodes themselves.
Yeah, totally, dude. I mean,
I haven't even really jumped into the shorts deal, but the little bit that I have, and honestly, I feel like it's a very good like outlet for content.
As far as growing right now, YouTube Shorts for sure is the best one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start doing more on that, man, because it's such a good thing. It's like Instagram stories kind of deal, like the stories is fantastic.
It is, but it's a much higher growth.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I was looking at my YouTube analytics, and like 98% of people that have viewed my content over the last, I think, the lifetime of the channel, I don't know, like forever, 98% are people that don't subscribe to me.
Really?
Right. Versus on Instagram, how many people see your content that don't subscribe or that don't follow you? Very few.
Yeah.
Unless you have something go viral. And even then, that's not going to be through an Instagram story.
Yeah.
It's going to be through an actual post. You don't want to post 1 million clips of content because people are going to get sick of seeing your shit so often.
Yeah.
You're not going to post as much. You want, with Instagram, in my opinion, you want to go quality over quantity. You don't want to just like spray stuff all the time, because people aren't going to continue to give that attention. Try to get better quality.
Versus they're your actual followers.
Right. Versus something like YouTube Shorts. Dude, I will cut up an episode that's 45 minutes into 50 clips, dude.
Yeah.
Whole damn episode almost.
Yeah.
And I'll post those every, another one every 2 to 6 hours and then a 10-hour time frame when I'm sleeping / get up and have my coffee. But like
Right.
I will space them and I'll have them all uploaded with all the descriptions and everything fully ready. So on my phone, I literally just hit publish. You know, that's all I have to do. But I'll do that so they come out every, 2 to 6 hours all week long. And who knows what's going to go, dude?
The ones that you don't even like are going to be the ones that take off.
But on that platform, it's about quantity more than it is about quality.
Yeah.
Like I can look at them, go, I had one do like 5,000 some views that I posted like yesterday on YouTube, like on YouTube Shorts, right? Mm-hmm. Not that much different than the other like 6 clips I posted from this same interview. Mm-hmm. Same camera angles, same people talking about similar things. Like there's not, and some of these other ones have like 100 views. Now, is that one that has 5,000? Is it 500 times as good of a
right?
Like, no, it's not 500 times the quality of a clip. It's just the algorithm.
That's the one that hit. It's the one that caught the eye.
Posting all that, I don't see subscribers unsubscribing.
Yeah.
Right. Versus on Instagram, if you were making 5 posts a day using clips, you're gonna have a lot of people unfollow you because they don't want to see you in their.
Because you're just clogging up their feed.
Yeah, they don't want to see that shit. But that's just not how YouTube. That's not how the platform works. So, in my opinion, if you want to grow, cut your clips out and then use the best ones. Like you could post them first on YouTube, whichever ones work better on YouTube. Then take those top few and use those ones on Instagram. Be more selective. The ones that you actually post to your reels, like a hard post, have those only be a few of them, like the absolute best ones. And then on your stories, you can be more liberal and do, 1 a day all week long. So you have 7. But on YouTube, YouTube Shorts, you could put up 40 of them. So
yeah, this is big stuff, guys. If you're not taking notes, I don't know what the hell you're doing.
I
Honestly.
mean, if you want to go, I'm telling you from experience, man, like learn from me because I took a long time to figure that out.
Yeah. What's funny is one of my last questions was going to be, what advice would you give? And it's just like, this is constant advice, like,
dude. Yeah. Well, it's one,
like this is stuff that is floating around in your head.
This is what I've always been,
all the time.
Spending all the time working on, man. I get like, I'll spend 8 hours a day, and I'm not kidding. I'm not going to my job at the hospital for 8 hours, coming home and working on this for 30 minutes. I'm working on it all goddamn day.
Yeah.
My partner, Mary, she's a post office carrier, like postal carrier. And so I'll wake up, have coffee. She'll leave for work pretty shortly after. My kids will get on the bus at 8:15 they'll leave the house at like 8 o'clock or 8:10, excuse me. And then until 4 o'clock, that's just about 8 hours. I'm sitting here all day long working on this.
Cutting. Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah.
And
cutting, editing,
writing
descriptions,
What I've realized is like, it feels like I'm not making progress a lot of the times, because I'm spending so much time. But as long as I figure out at least something every day, even if it's something really small, as long as I figure out something, it ends up making a huge difference. Yeah. And that's where I see all that progress come from. You're not going to figure everything out in one go, but as long as you're consistently figuring out something, even if it's tiny, it will make a big difference. Like for me, when I figured out that I could upload all of my like YouTube Shorts to my phone, but I could leave them as unlisted rather than posting them right then. So that way I could upload a bunch of them and then have them just ready. That was huge. And then when I realized that I could go on YouTube Studio on my laptop, and then I could go to those unlisted clips because they're already in there. And then I could put in the description and I could put in the suggested video that I want to show after that. Like after someone watches it, what's the recommended video? I can pick which one I want for that, right? I can pick the dates. I can put in the keywords and the locations and all that. When I realized I could do that, that was huge. When I realized that I could put a template in for like hashtags, so that way if I'm posting 40 clips from Sam Talent, each clip I'm probably going to use for the like 80% of the hashtags I'm going to use are going to be the same.
Yeah.
They're going to be Sam Talent interview, Passion Pod, Sam Talent Passion Pod, whatever. I can have all those saved in a template. So for all 40 of these clips, instead of typing all those out, when I go do it, I'm just like right clicking, pop, has all those, and now I only have to put in a couple hashtags that are relevant to that specific one.
That was a big one for me on my my actual like feed post. Was I have like the last bit of my my post is like click here to or find it in my bio and all this stuff, and then it'll have like a thing about like if you want to find the podcast here and here, and then I have my hashtags underneath that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is it's like each one of those little things
saves you so much time.
It does. And when when you compound all of those, now all of a sudden you're making huge strides.
Yeah.
You're not going to
because if you did every one of those for every episode,
right,
dude, you're already stretched thin time would be completely non-existent, honestly.
Right. Yeah, but like I said, as you just keep figuring out little things, just again, be kind to yourself. If you're putting in the time and you're trying, celebrate the small victories because they add up. As long as you continue with it, they'll add up. And that's the biggest part is just sticking with it, dude. Like most people give up. If the people who outlast, like look at Joe Rogan again as an example. Like, was that dude king of the world when he had 69 episodes? Nobody gave a shit when he had 69 episodes.
No, he's still doing them in his living room with fucking Red Band.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. When he hit 200 episodes, does anyone care? No. Dude's at like 2,000 some interviews, right? Yeah. How many podcasts out there have 2,000 interviews? I can't name a single one, dude.
I don't think I can't think of a single other one, actually. Right. Yeah.
So then naturally, would his be best? I mean, probably.
Yeah.
Because he's done most of them, right? Yeah. So, and a lot of these people who do podcasts too, it's not even their first one. They've done other ones in the past. So that's what I'm saying is like, if you just keep going, by the time you're hitting 200 episodes, you're probably going to be pretty good. As long as you just keep working on it. You just got to be patient and know there's not shortcuts. You just keep fucking working on it. You'll get there. It just takes time.
Damn, yeah. And it is a lot of work, but
it's a lot of work. Yeah.
So before we go any further, I do want to, I want to get back to like the meat of the podcast because I want to get this part in because I want to learn a lot about you, like yourself, not so much about like the Passion Podcast or about the skate shop or anything like that. I want to see what led you to these things because whenever I first started this podcast, I wrote a book a couple of years ago. And one of the biggest quotes from that was, I am the product of all my precisely fallen life events. So all these things that have happened to me, all these things that I've done have kind of the way that I have dealt with those things have made me the person that I am. And all these different trajectories that they have set me on have kind of led me to be where I am right now. So starting at the beginning, you're a Midwesterner. I do want to know, what does that mean to you? That's a big one for me because I don't know what that means. I'm a Southerner, man. Like we don't understand. We're like, we don't learn a lot about people other than Southern people, probably, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of them.
I suppose. Yeah, there it is right there.
Dude, if you want to learn about Midwesterners, look up Charlie Barons. You know that guy?
No, wait.
Oh, you know that guy. You've seen him.
I know that guy, but I don't know why I know that guy.
He's the Wisconsin guy.
Okay.
Got millions and millions of followers on every platform, like on all platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of them. And all of his content is him being from the Midwest. Like, I suppose, let me squeeze right past you.
Yeah. Like kind of shit. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. Yeah.
You got to look him up. He's so funny. Barons is Berens. He's a gem.
That's awesome.
No,
but so like sorry, I'm sorry. Keep going. What does it mean to you?
Midwest is just like a more quiet, like friendly atmosphere, which I guess like people say that from the South. Everybody has their own experiences, right? But I think what people like about the Midwest is it's like people aren't pretentious here at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people are very like they're very kind. They're, for the most part, pretty open-minded. It's a very relaxed space, which I guess is similar to the South in that way. We just don't have all that pressure. People who live, like when I go to LA or New York, it's so just like rat race, like all the time. And I get why. Like, it's because everyone's out there on a mission. Like, it's hard to live in places like that.
A lot of competition.
Ton of competition, no matter what you're doing. And you're there with a goal in mind. And anybody who's not helping you achieve that goal is just wasting your time. So you're like, go. Where I live, dude, it's not like that. Like, No, it's not hard to make a living here because housing is not expensive. Everything's just kind of available. So it's much more laid back. So people always say Southern hospitality, but people also say Midwest nice.
Like right. Yeah.
So it's similar, and it depends on what part of the Midwest you're from too. Like
you're just a little bit harder than Canadians, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, dude, I don't know. I've lived here pretty much my whole life, and I've traveled a lot. I think I've been to like 11 countries. I've been to 36 states or something.
There you go.
I've been around. I just love where I live, dude. It's quiet. It has everything I need. I'm 90 miles east of Minneapolis, meaning like if I want to go see a major performance or something, like it's right there. It's not hard to go. How often are you really going to go see a stadium show anyways?
Right.
Once a year, maybe. Like I can drive the hour and a half to go see one once in a while.
I live 10 minutes away from AT&T right now.
Yeah, but how many times you go there?
I've literally been in there one time.
See?
I've lived here for 4 years, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Is you don't go do those things anyways.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean? It's rare. So, but for where I live, dude, like I don't know what it costs there, but in comparison to a lot of big cities, my house costs very little, and I have a huge amount of space.
Yeah.
So, and it's just not, like I said, it's just not competitive, which has its drawback of being, you don't have other people around you that really inspire you, right?
Yeah.
You don't have other people doing cool things that are like, oh, you know, and there's not as much community that are like chasing dreams. So you don't have that camaraderie in that kind of way, but there's also no pressure. So for me, I like living here. There's no crime. It's just mellow. I have everything that I need. My town's got 70,000 people, so it's not tiny. It has all the things that I need. And Minneapolis is close by, which is a big city.
That's a big one, yeah.
And I can just come home to this, dude. Like I can go to LA for a week and be involved in all that and do the networking and interview people and do whatever, get the taste of it, get all the work done that I want to get done. And I can fly home and be in my quiet, happy space. And northern Wisconsin's gorgeous, dude. Like,
oh, I bet, man.
Incredible. Like,
are you out rural, or are you in? You said 70,000.
I'm in the middle.
So
I'm central, but I have a cabin on a lake up in the Chequamegon National Forest. It's called, but it's like all gravel roads for like miles and miles around it. It's like beautiful. There's nobody around. But the land, like Minnesota, they call the land of 10,000 lakes, but Wisconsin has over 15,000. Like we have a ton. People think of Wisconsin as being like farmland, and we have some of that in like central southern Wisconsin, but the whole northern half of our state is just like gorgeous, dude. Yeah. And the fact that all that is like right at my fingertips to me is just like perfect, man. Like if I had to move anywhere else, maybe Colorado.
But, there you go. Yeah, that's the only thing that would compete, probably. Yeah,
really, dude. I don't care. I don't want to live. I don't like being in big cities. I don't like being around a ton of people all the time.
Yeah, that drives me crazy, man. And I live right in the middle of it.
Well, and that's what people from the South like too. It's like having that community, knowing your neighbors and stuff. Like that's a lot of those same things are up north. We're just not as stark Christians as a lot of the South.
Which sounds actually nice.
For me personally,
not knocking you, but that's not my.
No, but I mean that's a big thing, right? The Bible Belt and all that. Like,
for sure. Yeah, I grew up so I'm actually from Arkansas. I live in Texas now.
Oh God, yeah.
But so I grew up in a town of 5,000.
Arkansas has some beautiful stuff, dude. I was there not long ago, and I went hiking and stuff. There's some gorgeous.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. The whole thing across the board is fantastic. But then when you start dealing with the people, you're like, oh man, these people have been in the hills for a long time.
I mean, it kind of depends on where too, right? Like,
absolutely.
My city, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, is like the bluest city in my state.
Interesting.
It's very, very liberal. We're like, the artist Bon Iver. You've heard Bon Iver. He won a Grammy. He did a whole album with Taylor Swift.
Oh wow,
it's indie music, but he's massive, dude. He's good friends with Kanye West and Aaron Rodgers, and
hell yeah.
He lives in my city. He's from my city.
Yeah.
He's like our local celebrity. But anyways, our town, especially after he won his Grammy, which was quite a while ago now, we're very much like an arts and music city. We're super, super liberal, very artsy, cool town, very hip. But if you go 15 miles away or 10 miles away to Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, which is basically a suburb of my town.
I've heard of that. Chippewa Falls? Is that from a book or a movie or something?
Have you ever seen Titanic?
Fuck yeah, dude. Okay. Yeah.
That's where, he talks about growing up on Lake Wissota in Chippewa Falls. But it's a
Whoa.
tiny little town, dude. Like, I don't even
Yeah.
know what the population is, 10,000 or something. I don't know. It's
Maybe.
little.
Yeah.
But it's like a suburb of Eau Claire, basically.
Okay.
It's just north of us by 10 miles, if that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, you go to that city, way different, dude. Way more rednecks. You go north of that, and it's just rednecks the whole way. If you look at, and I'm not trying to talk politics, but just in general, like if you look at like how the counties vote, Eau Claire is bright, bright, bright blue. Madison, blue. Milwaukee, blue. You might get some blue in like Appleton, Green Bay. Mm-hmm. The rest of the state, dude, is just red.
I feel like that's a lot of the states, and that's what's crazy is like the population dense places have the the blue, and then it goes red as it goes out. Because I don't know anything about politics, but I feel like it comes down to like individual liberties get into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, part of it too is like also Democrats and liberals in general prefer to spend more. They want to have more programs that for people. They want to put more money into like taxes. The big thing is, is conservatives will always say that, Democrats are going to raise our taxes. Well, when you live in a more remote area, you're only on your property. You don't care about the park systems, the sidewalks, and the library. Like, you don't give a shit about any of that.
Yeah.
You live
the welfare system or anything like that. Yeah.
Right. And none of your family is on it.
Yeah.
It's not relevant, versus if you live in a big city, a lot of people that care about what public transit situation looks like. You know what I mean? You care about what the library is like. You care about if there's a new park system being put over there. You care about about different things. So generally speaking, cities, the vast majority of the time, you have a lot more liberal people.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of the money gets spent too. And I feel like that's maybe where they're coming from. Like if you're out there on a farm by yourself and you're putting taxes in and the money's going into those cities, you're not seeing a lot of it, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Yeah, for sure. Well, and the laws are just, they're towards different types of people too. Like conservatives, the laws benefit the older, more established crowd for the most part. That's why the baby boomers, all vote Republican for the most part.
Yeah. Because they want to keep their money.
Yeah. But like, dude, young people don't own farms.
Yeah.
They live in the city. So that's where it's going to be more concentrated. But anyways, that's a whole political.
That's the whole political thing.
But Eau Claire, where I live, anyways, is like it's an artsy, kind of hip, cool town.
It sounds like the Deep Ellum of Dallas kind of deal.
I don't know.
You know anything about Deep Ellum?
No, but I went to Austin, Texas, and I thought it was rad, which was surprising.
So Austin is like if Deep Ellum was the whole city, probably.
Oh, okay, cool. Because like I've heard from so many people in LA, which I sound like I'm saying LA all the time. Like I think that's cool. I don't think that's cool. I just did a lot of interviews out there.
Yeah.
At the earlier on in my show, I wasn't established enough where I could just reach out to people. If I wanted to get someone relatively big, it was like I had to know someone who knew someone. So I kind of built a network in LA. So that's why I would go there. But anyways, out in LA, people all the time were talking about everyone's moving to Austin.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I don't like LA either. Like it's cool to visit. I would never want to live there. The air smells like poison. There's homeless people everywhere, which homeless people, I'm not saying they're bad people. There's usually PTSD and other issues.
It's a whole other subject.
Can of worms. But I wouldn't want to live there. But everyone there was talking about, Austin, Texas is the new LA. Everyone's moving to Austin. I was like, dude, Texas sounds awful. Like, no offense, but it just sounds like the way that the rest of the country paints Texas
is pretty accurate. Yeah.
Dude, it just sounds not good. So,
I'm an Arkansan that moved here, and I realized that every stereotype that you have heard is 100% true. Yeah.
And there are nice people and there's things there, but it's not, I don't want to live in Texas, but I did go down to Texas for the first time last year. This was a dream come true, actually. I've gotten to the point where I just DM people that I'm fans of because I want to interview them. Like maybe they'll say yes. And so I DM'd this dude, Michael Sieben, who he's the managing editor of Thrasher. You know, Thrasher.
Sick. I saw that on your Instagram earlier. I was looking.
So I DM'd him like, "Yo, dude, I would love." And he's also an illustrator. He has a degree in fine art.
Sick.
So, I'm a fan of his artwork, but also like I own a skateboard shop. I've skated my whole life, so like Thrasher is like the biggest publication, the biggest one that matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, I DM'd him and I was like, any chance you do an interview? And he was like, yeah, sure. Like, we doing it over Zoom or what? And I was like, nah, dude, I'll drive to Texas.
I'm coming to you, buddy.
Yeah. And he was like, what? I was like, yes, I will drive from Eau Claire, Wisconsin to Austin, Texas.
It's absolutely worth it for me to talk to you, dude.
Yeah. And he was like, okay. Like,
yes, dude.
So I took a whole road trip, and it was just an excuse. I wanted to go on a road trip.
Right. It's a pretty good excuse, though.
It was a good excuse. I also went down to Mardi Gras and did the whole thing. I had a good time. It was a cool trip. But anyways, I went down to Austin, and I actually can understand what everyone was saying. Yeah. When they're like, dude, Austin's the new LA. People are moving there. It's like, dude, Texas? No. But yes, Austin. Actually, visiting Austin, I was like, dude, this actually is a dope city. Like, it didn't feel like this conservative Christian weird, aggressive. It didn't feel like that. In fact, it was the Austin weird everyone talks about. But
yeah, dude, yeah.
It was like full of art, and it was just like, it had a really cool vibe. So even though it's in Texas, it didn't feel like Texas. And I guess all that's to say is every state is so diverse. It depends on where you're at. It depends on each individual community, which can change from decade to decade, depending on who the leaders are within that community. It could, there's so much variety within it where it just depends on where. Some areas of Wisconsin, I would never want to live.
Yeah.
Where I do live is rad.
Yeah. That's dope. Yeah, I do recommend, if you ever come to the DFW area, go to Deep Ellum. It's wild. It's a little bit crazy, but it is there's an arts district kind of in that area. Around it, Deep Ellum is like a very small portion of it, but everything kind of branches around that. Like, Deep Ellum's right here, downtown is right next to it. Like, because you have like the huge like hotels and like the real pompous types here, and then you have your full blown arts right here. Like, these people are like dirty dive bar having a great time over here. Cool. There's art all over every wall, like murals painted everywhere, and like it's a fantastic place.
And that's Arlington or Dallas?
That is Dallas. Arlington is the most small town, 500,000 person place you'll ever be. Like, everybody somehow knows everybody here. I don't understand how that works. This place feels like Conway, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And it's fucking Arlington, Texas. I don't understand how this works, man. It's crazy.
What keeps you down there? Why do you want to stay in Texas?
I found a lady down here, and I now have a child with her, and she loves it here, and I make a lot of money here, and like, it's, for the time being, this is the most practical place for us to be, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. Even though I have put forth very aggressive stands to move out of here, it's just every time we do the pros and cons list, it's like I get overruled every time, dude. Yeah.
Well, and again, it depends, right? Like, within every city, there's cool people.
Oh yeah, and I'm in a very good little area.
Yeah, if you surround yourself with people that you like, and there's cool places and stuff, like, if you just surround yourself with the things that you enjoy, you can have a cool life in a lot of places.
Anywhere, really. Yeah. Just stay out of the bullshit is what you really got to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
So I do want to take it back. Like I said, product of all your precisely fallen life events. I want to start at the very beginning. I would like to take it back even before you. Let's talk a little bit about your parents, if you will. Like, what led them to you? Like, what did your parents do?
Well, my mom was a elementary school teacher her whole career, and my dad was a fisheries technician for the DNR for his whole career. So they're both government workers doing stuff that they cared about. They met when they were in college in southern Wisconsin. They're both from like Antioch, Illinois, Kenosha, Wisconsin, like right by the border.
Okay.
And they started dating when they were like 18. And then they eventually got jobs where in the area of where I live. And I have one older sibling. She's 2 years older than me. She lives in Brooklyn, New York. She works for Google and makes a pile of money. She has her doctorate degree. She's awesome.
Your sister does?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So they had her, and then they had me 2 years later, and they actually bought the house that I'm in currently, the one that I own now.
Yeah.
When I was 2 years old, so in 1992. Um, and yeah, I guess I grew up here. I was born in, I think, Wausau, which is a little more east of here. My parents weren't even living in Wausau. That was just like the closest hospital at the time.
The good hospital to go to.
Yeah, they were just kind of bouncing around, you know what I mean, in their 20s or whatever, kind of figuring it out.
Yeah.
I know my dad spent some time. He was originally going to college for like computer science, and then decided he didn't want to work on computers, so he took longer to get his degree.
Interesting.
Which he eventually got in marine biology.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess before I was born, my parents, they both were already doing, like, my mom was a teacher and my dad worked for the DNR before I was born. And like I said, I think they were just bouncing around to wherever they could get the job. Because with like the DNR, they don't have a bunch of positions.
What does DNR stand for?
Department of Natural Resources.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, so they, there's only so many offices in the whole state.
Yeah,
it's not like there's a ton of them, and even within each office, they only have like a couple fisheries technicians. So you kind of have to go wherever you can get a job. Same way with teaching to a certain degree.
Yeah,
and they just ended up finding Eau Claire because my dad had a job in Chippewa Falls, which I mentioned. That's where he was working. And my mom was at this tiny school in Durand, Wisconsin, which is a very, very, like 45 minutes away from where I live, tiny town. But that's where she had gotten a job. And Eau Claire was kind of in the middle.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
So that's why they settled there.
That's where the roots kind of set in for you.
Yeah. And in 91 or something, right around that time frame, Eau Claire was like, it was a big logging town. It's called Eau Claire because it stands for clear water. Like, it means clear water in French.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's on the confluence of two rivers. My city is. It's right on the water. It's gorgeous. If you ever come up here, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the main careers were logging. And then there's a huge factory downtown, really close to my store, actually, called Banbury Place. But which is full of all these different businesses now. But back in the day, it was a tire factory, Uniroyal tire factory. And when that went out of business, when they shut down that factory, it shut down like 10% of the employment for the city.
Oh yeah,
huge hit. So when that happened, people moved and houses were dirt cheap.
Oh yeah.
So my parents bought the house I have now. I think they paid. I mean, this was 30 years ago, but still, I think they paid $67,000 for it, and it's on half an acre. It's a 4-bedroom house, 2-bathroom. I got a screened-in porch. It's 2,000 square feet. It's like a pretty nice house.
Yeah,
they paid $67,000 for it back then.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I don't know how long you want me to go up through my.
Oh no, I'd like to just go like linearly, like through like going into like you grew up. Are you just 100% Eau Claire? Like you lived your whole life in Eau Claire? Or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was 2 when my parents bought this house. So
okay.
But yeah, I spent my whole life here.
And then so they've had those same jobs?
Pretty much. I mean, neither of my parents work now.
Oh, well, of course, yeah. Hopefully,
right. They had those jobs like my whole life growing up. I grew up in this house. I went to a Catholic elementary school, not because either of my parents were like super religious, but just like private school had smaller class sizes.
Yeah.
My mom was
like the better education. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. It genuinely was. Because when I went from private school to public school in middle school, I was ahead in everything.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't when I was in private school. Like, I got good grades, but I wasn't like ahead. But when I went to public school, I was like way ahead.
Oh, you were killing everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. It actually does. They actually are ahead, at least at that school. So I went to a school called St. James, played a bunch of sports and stuff, grew up. Then I went to public school for middle school through high school, went to DeLong Middle School, and then to North High School, it's called. Graduated in 2008. After I graduated high school, I went to Duluth, Minnesota for a year for college for business, and decided I just had no real reason to go to college to sell stuff because I knew how to sell stuff. I was already in sales and stuff by that point. And I made the dean's list. I just didn't think I needed it. So I dropped out and kind of climbed the corporate ladder doing sales jobs. and I took a job in Burnsville, which is like Minneapolis, the Minneapolis area. So I took a job in Minneapolis and lived there for a year. Didn't like living in a big city.
Yeah.
And then
didn't like the corporate feel.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. And then it's a long story. But my parents split up. My dad had a heart transplant and some family stuff. And my dad needed someone to take care of him. And we don't have any other family in the area. So I kind of had to move back to Eau Claire to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to be back anyways. And then from then on, I've stayed in Eau Claire. And I'll be here until my kids graduate high school. I don't have any reason to leave.
Well, you love it there, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to know, when did skating come into the mix?
Dude, it's hard to I was young. It's hard to know. I don't want to say it's because of the Tony Hawk video games, but probably.
Yeah, they were so huge, dude.
Well, yeah, at the time, I was born in the spring of 90. And I think the first Tony Hawk game came out in 99.
Okay.
And everyone got a skateboard for, Christmas, their birthday, whatever, during that time frame. Everyone did. Mm-hmm. And most people just gave up on it. And I just didn't. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Kept doing it. So I started around that time frame, 9, 10. It's hard to pinpoint exactly.
Yeah.
But that's probably what it is. I mean, there was also a neighbor at my cabin. So my mom was a teacher. So I had spent the summers up living at my cabin. And there was another kid. There used to be a skateboarding camp up there called Lake Owen, which was on Lake Owen. It was close by.
Yeah.
But big name pros and stuff worked there. It was the Woodward that you see now. If you look up Woodward, there's a TV show on that. It was like that, a little smaller, but still, it was a skate camp that you could pay for a week to go.
That's
way
dope.
too expensive. My parents never let me go, but there's a different kid on the lake. He'd come up and visit his grandparents. He's actually from Saudi Arabia. His name was Khalid. And so they were filthy rich. But he went to skate camp or whatever for the week. And after he got back, I was like, what? Skateboarding? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, hell yeah. I remember,
going out into their garage and him letting me try his skateboard. And the rest of the family was out. This is a cabin. So all the neighbors and stuff too. Everyone's having a campfire outside. And I'm in the garage, dicking around with the skateboard. And he kind of shows me how to ollie. And I was just so determined. I ended up staying in that garage for 3 hours by myself until I figured out how to ollie a centimeter high.
Yeah.
And from then,
when you hit that first one, man,
dude, exactly. And then it was Mom, I need a skateboard.
So magical.
And then I got my own board real shortly after that, and then just did the whole rest of my life. Still do it. I don't do it nearly as often as I used to, but
I still do it relatively. I mean, so I started skating whenever I was probably whenever I was 10 or so. I was born in 96, so this was 2006 or so. And I had played the Tony Hawk games and stuff, but I was I say too little, but honestly I wasn't. You see little kids skating all the time now.
Totally.
But by the time I hit middle school, I was starting to make friends and stuff, and everybody skated. Down in Mena, Arkansas, we had you'd just go out to the funeral home and you'd hit their fucking the
little gap or whatever.
Yeah, the little gap, and you'd hit the handrails and stuff like that, and there's a post office with a 3-foot thing that you would jump off and stuff, and all of them were illegal to be skating on apparently. But
it still is. They just don't enforce them much like they used to. We used to run from the cops all the time. It's a $213 fine in my city for skateboarding, but cops don't give tickets anymore.
Oh, no,
they haven't in years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so much fun, man. And I remember we would just roll around town and you could get anywhere on that skateboard. It was like having a bike, but you would have so much fun in between where you were going.
Yeah. I would take the city bus when I was 14. I would take the city bus downtown to the local skate shop that used to exist called Underloud. Mm-hmm. And then whatever, this was before cell phones, And so you'd go down there, and once you had a squad of 3-4 kids that wanted to skate, which everyone did after school, they all went there.
Oh yeah.
Then you'd go out and skate until you got kicked out of a spot, or until you had to run from the cops from one of the spots downtown. Yep. You'd all go hide out at the skate shop for another hour while you decided where to go next, and that was every day for a year.
That's wild, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't have any, like, there was a skate shop in town, and somebody like broke the window or something like that. Like, this is like small town, like Mina shit. Like, everybody's just
Yeah.
a bunch of degenerates at this point, dude. Like, I remember the first time I smoked a cigarette was at so they finally built us a skate park in Mina, and it's still there. Well, no, it might not. No, I think it's still there to this day. But it was right next to the baseball fields and stuff, and we used to go down there. And my cousin Gerald, he was fantastic, dude. He was so good, and he got off on a bunch of like the darker side of
Sure.
that kind of a place. But he was so good, and like I always was just trying to be as good as he was, man. And like
Yeah.
whenever you'd be down there, I'd hang out with like my buddy Dexter and stuff. And like I remember the first time like I hit a cigarette, we were at the skate shop or at the skate park, and like I hit it and I coughed so bad, and like I thought I was gonna throw up. And then like we're all just like out there like chilling, skateboarding and stuff, and like it's just magic, man.
That's funny. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life.
Really? I
Still.
was gonna ask you, so like I mean there's a lot of like what do they say? Like saying
Stereotype.
so stereotypes around skateboarding, around
Yeah.
like people like doing drugs and like stuff like that, but like it's not technically like part of the culture. I feel like it's
No, it's
something
not part
that
of
an
it.
outside viewer would say.
No, it's just like if you leave a bunch of unsupervised teenage boys and older together, like what do you think is going to happen, man?
They're gonna experiment with shit.
Yeah, it's not because of skateboarding,
Yeah.
dude. It's just like the nature of leaving a bunch of unsupervised kids like that. Think about house shows, dude. Like people don't
Oh,
say, "Oh, your kid shouldn't learn how to play the guitar because they'll get in drugs." Dude, you go to house shows, you are gonna be introduced to drugs way more than you will at skate park. But no
yeah.
one talks about that.
Hmm.
Like it's just it's a unwarranted stereotype. I've told parents for so many years. My shop turns 10 years old in April. So for 10 years, I've been telling parents like if you don't want your kid to like discover weed at the skate park, just hang out at the park,
Go
dude.
with the skate park. Go to the skate park
Yeah.
with them. Yeah.
Go and read a book on the lawn next to it. It's a big
They'll
open
have a
park
great
that's like
time.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. Like if there are parents that are there,
Hmm.
people aren't going to smoke weed at the park.
Yeah.
They don't want to get caught. They don't want to get in
Hmm.
trouble. The only reason that's happening is because there's no adult supervision there at all. And that would
Yeah.
happen if it was a basketball court. Like it has nothing
Oh,
to do with
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
fact that it's skateboarding. It's just kids who want to prove themselves and be cooler than the other ones
Yeah.
unsupervised,
With nobody
regardless of
around.
the location, dude. Yeah. But no, I
Damn,
don't know.
that's
I
a good
just never
point.
got
Yeah.
into trouble. It just wasn't my sister was valedictorian, and I got a 3.5 or something in high school. Like I did really well too.
Yeah.
But my sister was really, really good in school and never got in trouble. So
You had something to keep up, you know.
yeah, and like how extreme different are you gonna be? Like
Mhm.
that's just what I was brought up like. And I went to a Catholic school where kids didn't really get in trouble either. Like
Yeah.
it just wasn't. I just didn't really get into trouble. I wasn't surrounded by that. My parents were very present.
Mhm.
When kids get into smoking cigarettes when they're in middle school, it's because their parents aren't around, man.
Damn
Like
right.
my parents were around. They
Yeah.
were involved. Good parents. Not that everyone tries, and some people come from totally different situations. Like
Oh yeah.
definitely, I'm a privileged white male from a middle class family, and that's a privileged situation. But my parents both had jobs where they were done with work, like around when I was done with school.
Mhm.
I went to daycares until I was old enough, or my sister was old enough for us to be at home by ourselves for like an hour until my parents came home. But we didn't try to go get in trouble or anything. So I don't
Yeah.
know, man. I guess I wisened up pretty young and realized that if I don't do anything stupid and I don't get in trouble, then my parents are going to give me way more freedom.
Yeah.
Not I don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
So, when I was 16, I was taking me and my friends, loading up my car and driving to Minneapolis to go street skate.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It
Because
wasn't
they knew that you could do that.
right because I never got in trouble. It just wasn't an issue, and I wasn't tempted to get in trouble because I knew that if I did, I would lose all of these like privileges that I had.
Yeah.
So
Now my thing was I was always good at talking my way out of things. Like I would get into these like situations, like not like huge troubles or anything like that, but I was always like able to talk to. Well, I lived with my grandma since
Sure.
from the time I was 11, and she's 72 whenever she got us, I think, at the
Oh yeah.
time. So it's not super hard to, convince an old lady that she doesn't know what she's talking about,
Right.
unfortunately, like, and she gave us so much rope, like enough to hang yourself on kind of deal.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
so I got into a lot of things that I never should have really been in because my parents weren't present. Grandma was there, but she was just doing her fucking best, like
Right.
she's an
Exactly.
old lady. She can't really, like she kind of just threw herself into the situation. But it's like, I also wasn't out there like pursuing anything super crazy.
Right.
And for the most part, I stayed out of trouble until like my senior year. I got into some like crazy stuff that I've definitely talked about on the podcast. It hasn't
Sure.
like defined my life, but it was a very big thing that happened to me at the time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we all have different chapters, right? Like
Yeah.
mine, I never really got in trouble for anything. Like that just has never been a portion of my life. But I got divorced like 4 years ago now, and I was with my ex-wife for 15 years, like from when I was 14 years old till I was just about 30. And that changed the trajectory of my life pretty significantly. You know what I mean? And that wasn't a
Imagine,
fun
yeah.
time. Like that shit sucked. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But that, like, it's times like that, or like when my dad had his heart transplant, and my parents got divorced, and I had to go through all that. It's those types of times that like it wakes you up enough to really reflect on your life and like make more, you know, a more conscious decision of like the direction you want to be going. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times you're just kind of one foot in front of the other, like
Yeah.
along
You're
with the
like an
path.
unconscious thing, but that snaps you into like
Yeah,
an
you're
adult
not
conscious.
exactly. You
I have to
realize
start
that
making decisions.
a change has to happen,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's out of your control. It's not because you made a mistake. Like in my scenario, it's not like I got into drugs or something, but still the world around me changed drastically, and I had to decide, well, where do I want to go then?
Yeah.
Like, how do I want to, proceed from there? Does it define me? No, but it was definitely a significant moment,
Yeah.
or time frame in my life where it changed the trajectory for me for sure.
That's such a huge thing because I've been with my girl for, 4 years now. We have a 2-year-old. And I mean, things are fucking, I mean, we have a 2-year-old right now and she's a bit of a monster. I love her to death, but like I bet you remember when your girls were 2 years old.
Dude, 3 is harder.
Is it?
Yeah, everyone says terrible twos. I totally
I
disagree. I think
know.
3 was the hardest.
I feel like a lot of people say like 1 to 3, you're gonna have that year that's the hardest
Well,
somewhere
it's,
in there.
it's because from my experience with my kids, it's because when they hit 3, they were old enough to realize that they don't have to listen to you.
Yeah, I think she's already starting to.
And then they could think in their heads and go and weigh the decision and go, okay, I don't have to listen to you.
And like, how
If
far
I
is he
don't
gonna go
listen,
to make me do this?
right.
Yeah.
They're like, well, so if I don't listen, how big is the consequence? Like, what can I get away with? Like,
Oh,
with
no.
babies, they don't think about it at all, but they also
Yeah.
can't get into that much trouble because they can't walk. They can't, like, they're pretty limited in the
Oh,
trouble
yeah.
they can get into.
Mhm.
But by the time they hit 3, they can understand when you're talking to them, even if they can't communicate great yet, they can understand what you're saying and they can weigh in their mind, like, there's consequences, but it might be worth it.
They're so
That's
much
when they
smarter than
were,
you would ever think too.
dude. Yeah, that's when
Oh
my
my
kids
god.
were by far the most difficult.
The thing about my girl right now is like she's so funny because like she's just getting to where like you ask her a question and if she doesn't know the answer, she'll go, like she's like trying to like put it together. And like before, like she'd just give you like some bullshit or like, whatever. Like she
Right.
wouldn't even answer. Like she just wouldn't understand what you're talking about. Like now it's like kind of like you can see the gears trying to turn and it's like it's just something that she hasn't learned yet.
Right.
And so it's like you're putting in this input, and it's the I know a lot like it's so crazy. Like whenever you talk to parents, like nobody really gives a shit, you know. But
Yeah.
it's like just seeing that path of a small person getting all this input and like putting all the little pieces together is so much fun. Like it's the
Yeah.
hardest possible thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So much harder than anybody ever said that it would be. And
Yeah.
they all said it would be hard.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
that
just so much pressure, dude. Like you got
yeah.
somebody else's life that, And it's not just about keeping them alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
like trying to follow the trajectory.
right. You're like,
throughout their
whatever
life.
thing I do now could affect this other human for the next 80 years of their life.
Yes, dude. Like we're talking about nap time right now, and it's like,
Yeah.
we're like
It's a lot.
forcing her to take a nap. Is that going to give her like a bad
Yeah, right.
connection with sleep kind of shit?
That's what I'm talking
And
about,
it's
though,
like,
about just like being kind to yourself.
yeah,
It's about going, as long as I did the best I could in that situation, that's the best I could at the moment, and that's it. Can't do anything better than that. Is what it is.
another thing that
mistakes. It is what it is.
another thing I've realized recently is like I just need to stop taking it so personally. I think.
Wow, yeah, dude. Kids can be mean,
Yeah.
but they also
They're
don't.
so
They don't mean
mean.
it. Yeah, they don't.
And it's also like you just take like their development and stuff really personally. Like if they're not at certain milestones and stuff like that, which she has, like pretty much killed just about every
Sure.
milestone that I've heard of. Like she's
Yeah.
pretty much killing it, but it's like I want to see her like be on that same path. But it's like you look at like little things, like whenever it comes to like nap time and eating and stuff like that, like all these like I guess like structural things that she just gets so mad about.
Yeah.
And it's like you kind of just got to let her do her own thing. You have to like not take it personally that you weren't the one that set the structure.
Well, yeah, I mean they're their own human, dude.
Exactly. Yeah,
Like,
they're very independent.
They're not you. They're not gonna be you.
Yeah.
You have to try to guide them and give them all the tools to success, but like they're still their own person. They're going to make their own decisions, especially as they get older. There's only so much you can do about it. Like, and they're going to be really good at some things and horrible at other things, just like you're really good at some things and horrible at other things. And you do the best you can, and then you be nice to yourself.
Yeah.
When mistakes happen and go, well, I did the best I could.
Absolutely, dude.
Not my fault. I did what I could in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we'll stop talking to you guys about our kids. We'll show you some pictures if you want, but I'm sure you don't want to see them.
Yeah.
But so going past all of that, I do want to hear. So whenever you went to leave high school, this is a question I like to ask a lot. So like during high school, it didn't sound like you like partied a whole bunch and stuff like that, but like going out of high school, do you actually have a plan? Like you knew you were going to college.
Yeah.
And like did you know what like you were going to be when you grew up kind of deal?
Yeah.
And how did that change throughout?
I mean, I guess I was stuck in the same thing everyone is usually, which is the like build a comfortable life for yourself, make money, like that's
Go
kind
to
of
college, do engineering or marketing.
Yeah. We're not taught. We don't place a lot of importance when we're teaching kids through middle school, high school, that they should do something they love for a living, or something that leaves a positive impact on others, or something that makes them feel good about themselves. We tell them to try to make a living, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you make a comfortable living? So
get you a comfortable living, get you a 401k set up.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what
shit.
I was doing, man. Like I'd been in sales since I was 16. Like I'd always done sales. And I was really good at it. And
what kind of sales, if I may?
Well, I've worked a lot of different jobs. My last couple of jobs, I was an assistant manager for Verizon Wireless. Before that, I was assistant manager for Hellsberg Diamonds. Before that was a K Jewelers. I've worked a bunch of them, but I was doing sales, and I went to college for business, really just thinking like I'll get a degree in this, and then I'll be a general manager of a sales environment store of some kind. I don't know if it'll be selling houses, selling insurance, selling cell phones, selling cars. I just knew I was good at that. I like talking to people, and that's what I was going to do. So I went to school for business and realized that you're either like, you can either do that or you can't do that. And I didn't want to be on the marketing side. Like I wanted to sell things to people.
You want to be the person to person.
Right. Exactly. So I just didn't think I needed it. So I dropped out and just like pursued that work and did really well with it. That's always what I wanted to do. And then it was like right after Thanksgiving, which would have been 2012, I think would have been the year. Yeah. I came home to visit my parents. I was living in Minneapolis. Came home to visit my parents for Thanksgiving. I was back home. This was on like Monday or something. And I was working at Ellsberg Diamonds or K Jewelers. I think it was at K Jewelers. And I was walking to the food court because I was in a mall, walking to the food court, and my phone went off, which was like happened chance because I didn't keep my phone on me while I was working, but I was going on a break. And it was my sister. And I answered, and she was just like bawling and freaking out. And she's like, you need to get to Eau Claire. She was living in Chicago at the time, getting her master's degree. And I was like, what's going on? She goes, I have no idea. I was just talking to Dad and he collapsed. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, I don't know. I heard thuds. I was just like out of nowhere. He's like, I don't know if he's alive. You need to get to Eau Claire. I'm calling the ambulance like right now. But you need to get there.
And how far are you from there?
Probably an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like quickly turned around, like tossed my keys to like my store keys I had.
I gotta go.
My boss, I was like, dude, I gotta go. And she was like, what? And I was like, my sister just called. I don't know if my dad just died or what, but I need to get home right now. Figure it out. She's like, okay, So I called. I was still married at the time. Called my ex-wife, and I was like, dude, we need to go to Eau Claire now. Like, I don't know how long we're gonna be there. What's going on? And I explained it to her. I rush home, which was 5 minutes from where I work, to my apartment. Threw some stuff in a backpack, started driving, and within 10 minutes, I was just like, I couldn't do it. I had to pull over. I was like losing it. And the hospital is calling me, and it's who's the like priest that's in the hospital that like talks to the people and relays information. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Liaison person.
Yeah,
I can't think of the term, but whatever. Yeah. That person was calling me like every 10 minutes, giving me updates, right? And he basically was just like, I don't know if he'll still be alive when you get here. And eventually got to the hospital in Eau Claire. And he was like, they didn't think he was going to make it through the night. When they found him, he had collapsed while on the phone with my sister after apparently my mom and him got in an argument, and she walked out on him. Yeah. So he was talking to my sister.
Oh, wow.
He had a heart attack and fell down the flight of stairs because I live in a split level. Fell down both flights of stairs. They found him at the way bottom and did compressions on him for 45 minutes and broke all of his ribs. And then he ended up being on a balloon pump for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was a really nasty
tough time,
situation. Yeah. Well, and then, dealing with my mom had left him, and I didn't even know that my parents weren't together. She had left him like that fucking day.
Oh my God.
So when I got to the hospital, my mom was there, but with a friend, and I didn't understand what was going on. And she just
friend?
No, just a different friend.
Okay.
But I remember when I got there, she just said like, oh, good, you're here now. And then just like left. And I didn't even know my parents weren't together. Like I was with them 2 days ago, and they were together for 35 years. I had no idea. And she left, and I didn't understand what was going on. My sister was in Chicago, so she was trying to figure out a way to get up to Eau Claire. She didn't have a car. Yeah. She was in college down there.
Yeah.
And so it was just like staying up all night, hoping he was going to live. They would, the liaison person that would come in once an hour, basically, and tell me like, there's not a whole lot of news. We're not sure if he's going to make it or what, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it was just a really, and there's more to that story, but it was a hard time. Yeah. And it was when that happened that I kind of like looked at my life like, well, my parents always talked about the next chapter of life, and they were about to retire. Like they were 2 years away from retirement and had a nest egg to be able to travel the world the rest of their life.
Yeah.
If they wanted. And then in the course of one day, like that's gone, like totally gone.
Like they're split. Dad's gone.
Dad's going to live. Like, I don't even like, it's just gone. And I guess it made me think about my own mortality of like, well, if I died tomorrow, like, how would I feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just, it made me really think about that. And then over the course of the next like year or so, was when I decided to open my store.
Yeah.
I had just, I had my first child during that like year and a half time frame as well. Mm-hmm. So becoming a parent, as well as like all of a sudden taking care of my dad and like
Yeah.
all of this stuff made me kind of wake up from the whole like corporate ladder, make a good living situation.
Yeah. Like, I need to take care of my life.
Yeah, like the money clearly doesn't matter that much because
Yeah.
my parents had it and it didn't fucking matter. You know what I mean?
And
So
fucking help them, did it? Yeah.
right, exactly. So all that stuff were catalysts. As well as like we had been raising money for a skate park since I was like, I don't even know. I have a T-shirt. You can't see it off camera, but it's behind me on the wall that says "Build us a park already."
Yeah.
And I designed and screen printed that when I was 15 in high school, and we sold it to raise money for a skate park. And so we had finally gotten our first free public skate park during that time frame too. So it was like kind of like the right time. Somebody should open a skate shop.
Somebody needs to do this. Yeah.
You
And
know,
you have the marketing, you have the
right. I knew
you
what
have
I
the
was doing.
sales.
I already managed retail businesses. I was ready to do something I cared about. It was all the stars kind of aligned where it was like, if I'm going to take a chance, now it's kind of the time to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I did. And that I opened that April 11th of 2014. Still have it. I mean, I'm not there a lot anymore. I have somebody there full time.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a lot of like leadway with that. Like, it sounds like you have a good team behind you that can kind of take care of stuff with you. Yeah.
But I mean, it was pretty much just me the first 5 years of owning that business.
As it should be. Yeah.
But you know, after that time frame, I started to have the itch of like, I want to do more. Like, I want to have more things. I can't do the same. No matter how much you like something, you can't do the same thing every day forever.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it came to. And I was going through a divorce at the time and stuff of, she'll never watch this. My ex-wife was unfaithful to me. So I was having issues with that. And I stayed with her for over a year after that. And I was just kind of like struggling.
Yeah.
Figuring out like what I
needed. Like, you don't want to let go.
And I wanted to be there for my kids. And I just like, I needed something else. And that's when I started my show, is it was like, I needed some other outlet. And so that's when I started doing my podcast, which was 4.5 years ago. That would have been now. And that over time has really taken off to be a big part of my career. And during that time frame as well was when I started painting. I didn't start painting till I was 28.
Really?
Yeah. But now painting is like, I painted one of the biggest murals in my area. It's 32 feet tall and 78 feet wide.
I think I saw that on your Instagram. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So during that time frame is when I started doing that. And now between art, my show, and my shop, I make a living between all three, but I kind of juggle them all. Yeah. And my show is probably what takes the most amount of my time, but it depends.
From what you told me, it sounds like it. Yeah.
It depends, you know. That really big mural that I did, that when I was working on that was definitely
was the main. Yeah.
The majority of every one of my days was going to painting that until that project was done. So it kind of depends case by case a little bit. Depends on what's on the workload.
So I was, one of my questions was what drew you to start the podcast, but that just is so clear as to why. And then, so what started you painting? Like, what made you just put it?
I was just depressed, dude. Like, that's all it was. It was like,
outlet.
Yeah. Well, I've always really enjoyed art. But I never thought I was an artist. I didn't take art classes in school. Like, I just always thought I couldn't draw. So whatever.
We didn't want to draw what they wanted you to draw, probably.
Well, that, and I just wasn't good at it, man. Like, I wasn't even a kid who doodled a lot. Like, I just wasn't good at it. But it took a time frame of my life where I was so depressed that it was the first time in my life where I no longer cared about like anything really at that time frame. I was in a really bad place. But it was finally this first time where it was like, if I paint something and it's complete horseshit, I don't care if it's complete horseshit. And I think a lot of the things that gets in our way as adults is like, we don't want to be bad at anything. It's embarrassing to be bad at something. And if we don't want to start new things, because it's like, well, if I was going to be an artist, I should have been a while ago. I can't.
There's so much competition in everything.
Yeah, I can't be 30 and start drawing. Like, that's embarrassing, you know?
Yeah.
But it was the first time where the embarrassment wasn't something that crossed my mind because I was depressed enough. I did.
You were hurt. Yeah.
So
get that shit out of you.
Meaning these like stupid little cartoony kind of creatures, because it was like an outlet of like, this is kind of silly and I don't have to think about it. It was just something to kind of do.
Yeah. The art I've seen of yours is fun.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just something to kind of distract me. Like I said, I was going through a difficult time with this divorce of like, I needed distractions, and painting was a way where I could be in my house, but I could be distracted from what was happening at the time
Yeah.
because I would just be focusing on my painting. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that's like, I'm really thankful. I was talking to my tattoo artist about it today because I got tattooed today, actually.
Oh,
But I
did
was
you?
talking
Nice.
to, yeah, I was talking to him today about how whenever I've been depressed, I my coping mechanism, which is awesome, is I just work really hard.
Yeah.
A lot of other people, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but unfortunately, what happens with a lot of people when they're depressed is they go down a path of drugs or alcohol or whatever to like escape. Their ways of escaping are negative, so that way it's a
Associating. Yeah.
cycle. Because then when they would otherwise feel better, they look at what they've done with the last time frame and they're like, God, I'm such a piece of shit. And
So
then
much worse now.
yeah, versus
Yeah.
me, my escape is doing something productive. And it always
Yeah.
has been. I'm not sure why. I'm just wired that way. I don't know. But when
Interesting.
I've been depressed, my time
Probably something from the
works
Catholic
really
school.
hard. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. I attribute religion to it, but like I'll
Probably one
put
of those spankings, you
so much time into art, or I'll put so much time into my show or whatever that thing is, that when I come out of it, you know, that depressive state, I look at where all that time went and I'm like, damn, I made a lot of progress. You know,
Yeah.
maybe I wasn't emotionally available for people during that time frame, which sucks.
Mhm.
But like I made a lot of progress and I feel good about where I'm at. And that's what happened during that time frame of my life. You know,
Yeah.
going through that year and 3 months, you know, before we finally split, but then even after that, you know what I mean? It's not like you break up and never see each other. I
You
have
have
my kids half
kids.
the time. Every
Yeah.
Sunday I see my ex-wife. Every
Yeah.
Sunday, you know. And it's a healing journey that takes a long time. After 15 years and 2 children, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And so
And then
there's
how long have y'all been separated now?
4 years now.
4 years now?
Yeah. But it's just been, yeah. And it was during the pandemic. So even getting the divorce finalized was a pain because courts
Oh
were
my
closed.
God. Yeah.
So it just made everything a mess. We've been like
Wow.
actually divorced now for a little over 3 years. But anyways, during that whole time frame, it's like there are a lot of sections of that where I was really depressed for chunks of time. And thankfully, I had my show and I had art and things that I could put all of my energy into. If I didn't
Yeah.
want to feel anything, I didn't go to like drugs or alcohol. I went to
You started
painting.
editing videos. You
Yeah,
started painting.
I
You
like
started.
tunnel visioned on that
Yeah.
to distract me from the outside world, which, like I said, made some of my friendships and stuff suffer because I wasn't emotionally
Yeah.
available for people. But at least I put it into something that I felt good about after the fact.
I'd prefer the opposite, or I'd prefer that to the opposite of
Yeah,
like
totally.
going and like drinking with other people and like being super available to other people and like just like going out partying and being, super social and like trying to fill your void with that.
Right.
Instead, you kind of went into yourself and
Yeah.
dealt with things.
Yeah. Man, I'm not saying I didn't ever go to the bar or anything, but in general,
Oh no, yeah,
it just that's what I have, for whatever reason, that's my coping mechanism when I'm depressed, is I
yeah,
just work on stuff. Because I
yeah,
think for me, like I guess I'm just reflecting on the moment. I think it's because there's something measurable in front of me
hmm
where I can like tunnel vision on that thing and I can see progression. So even
yeah,
though it feels like the world's falling apart around me in those moments where nothing's working and everything's horrible, this one thing that I'm hyper focused on, I can see that progressing and
yeah.
improving. And I know that like
I
it's
can
because I'm
touch,
doing it.
feel, I can see,
Right. And by
like,
having that in front of me, that's what draws me to it.
wow.
That makes sense.
No, that definitely does because I can see like because I mean just putting a video together is just such an accomplishment for me whenever I do it or like I've doodled and stuff like that and like whenever I finish a piece and stuff like that like it's
Yeah.
so huge or like and I like to think I'm a big reader but like I don't read as much as I'd like to but whenever I finish a book or something like that it's such a huge accomplishment
Totally.
like those are like personal accolades that you
Yeah.
get to enjoy and whether it's for some like whether anybody else understands it it means something to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's just something kind of like measurable right in front of you.
hmm
that you can see the finality of it. You can see the progress of it.
Yeah.
Where it's undeniable. It's
Yeah.
not, am I in a better place emotionally or not? Some days I'm happier.
Did
than
I
others.
just finish a 15-hour,
Exactly.
podcast episode, or did I just like finish working however long you did on that mural and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
right.
Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's something measurable that you can see and go, okay, cool. I know that no matter what else is going on that's confusing, this I know for sure I did this right.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Yeah. I think that's a note for a lot of people, man, because then that's something for me. Like whenever I get like stressed out, like I turn to, well, I mean, I don't even really think I really turn to it. I feel like I've grown a lot on this and stuff. Like I don't drink as much as I used to. I do still drink and I
You
do
work
still
up hard,
smoke and
dude. You're
stuff
gonna
like that. You really can't help it, dude. And
yeah,
like
dude. It's part of the culture.
it's hard, man, because like you're passing out beers all day, and like the one thing you want to do whenever you get off, like the period on the end of my day is like I get to have a beer, and that means that I'm done because I can't drink all day while everybody else is drinking and fucking around me. The one thing that I can do is go home, have a beer, and that's the end of my day.
Right.
Like I know I'm done at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but it makes the most sense to me.
Sure.
It's like that's how I know I'm done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it makes total sense, dude. There's a reason that like service industry has its own culture.
Yeah. It really is like a very interesting and toxic subculture of humanity. But it's so
bartenders can make very good money without working particularly hard necessarily. Depends on the situation, but in general, without having to have a degree or any kind of like really significant expertise, you can make pretty good money.
Oh yeah.
It's the hours and it's the culture and everything that's difficult. There's a reason not that many people do it as they get older because
it's
they don't
socially
want to work
taxing.
that night. They want to be able to with their family and stuff. They don't want to be working Saturday nights. They don't want to work Friday nights. Like it's just
all the times people are going to the lake and doing all that stuff, or like people are going to football games and things like that. I'm working those.
Right. Exactly. I want to be able to take my kids up to my cabin on the weekend, when they get done with school on Friday.
But I've also carved out a very good spot at the place that I work, where I work Thursday through Sunday. I get my Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off. I have 3 days off a week every week where I can do podcasts. Me and Kristen, we can do everything in the house that we need to do. And like, we just work opposite schedules.
Which works
for you very well.
Which works for you for the time being. And maybe it works forever. Maybe it works for 2 years. Maybe it works for 10 years.
I can't imagine my feet will let it work for that much longer. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
they're very mad at me right now.
Is once your kid's in school, it'll be like now having Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off isn't that ideal because
it doesn't make that much sense anymore.
Right. If I have to work, I should get that done while my kid's at school because I want to spend as much time with them as possible.
Yeah. That's one thing about it is like people will say like having a kid, like just, and like doing the social media and stuff that we talked about earlier, like the amount of time that takes, like that's time, like, because I'm with my kid most of the time. If I'm not at work, I'm with OC like all the time. And to do like the social media posts and stuff like that, I have to just sit down and just get away from her. Like I have to put like on a movie or something like that and like get her like away from me. I have to like sit in a chair, like take an hour or two out of a day to like do these posts on all these different platforms and all this stuff. And like I do have a pretty good situation with Kristen set up to where they go to bed at 9:00. I can stay up however late, but OC's going to be up at 8 at the latest. So I need to be in bed by like midnight. That needs to be like I should be 100%. If I want to get 8 hours of sleep, hopefully, I should be in bed.
Dude, yeah. Speaking of,
I was just about to say that because I do want to kind of ask you about where everything is right now for the Passion Pod, the skate shop, you as a person, and then what is going on in the future.
Man, I mean, right now it's just winter, so my shop is slow. There's not really, I don't really throw events midwinter.
We're not skating in -20.
No, there's not that much you can do. Same way with like mural work, there's opportunities to paint stuff indoors, and I do that, a little bit. But what I love is being outside in the nice weather with a speaker on painting for 10 hours. Like that's what I love about painting murals. So right now I've been painting some smaller stuff. I'm going to be in this fingerboard art show. Like paint
fingerboard.
Yeah. This artist in I think in somewhere, maybe in Phoenix, somewhere in that area of the country asked me to be in it. So
that's awesome.
That. I paint.
You need to get in some deep Ellum. Need some.
Yeah, for real. I'm painting doing a bunch of custom sneakers for people, which is like a fun little side thing that I do. I paint shoes.
I noticed that those are freaking sick, dude. I have a buddy that does that. Ben Graves over in Fayetteville, and he is fantastic. You'd love him.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, send me his profile.
Gotcha.
So I mean, doing that, but for the most part, it's just working on my show.
Yeah.
Trying to align myself with more organizations in the area. Really, I'm trying to position myself as like the podcasting or interviewing personality in the Midwest.
Yeah.
We don't have any significant people in the Midwest at all. Like, and I'm talking Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Chicago, Madison. There's no major interviewing personality in any of those areas.
I can't think of one. Yeah. And I'm not that I'm a well-learned person or anything.
No, but I mean, I'm in that scene and I live in this area and I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm the biggest one? No, but it just means that there isn't anyone so big that I even know who they are.
But it also means there's an opportunity.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So trying to position myself as that guy. I already kind of am, like in my city. I'm like the person to interview people, but I want to make that like bigger, such as like Travis Scott is performing in Minneapolis on Saturday, right?
Dude,
I'm not going to interview him. I know.
Oh, man.
But what I'm saying is, as people like him come through, I want to be positioned as the guy to interview everyone.
Yeah. Like when they do come through, that's the idea.
Yeah. Well, I am interviewing Tom Higginson, the singer of the Plain White Tees, next month.
Sick, dude.
In Minneapolis, and their song "Hey There, Delilah" just hit 1 billion streams. So I am interviewing some big people, just not Travis Scott, but. That's
crazy that Travis Scott is bigger than Hey There, Delilah right now.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty wild, dude. Well, I mean, a different time, right? Like,
yeah, it did take Hey There, Delilah 15 years, you know.
Yeah. Plain White Tees were way famous long before Instagram. So the singer of the Plain White Tees, Tom Higginson, his name's Higgy Pop on Instagram. He follows me on Instagram.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, he only has like 19,000 followers or something. Nothing like, not that many considering he's the singer of a song.
He's a relatively regular dude for what he is. Yeah.
Yeah. I did a short interview with him backstage at a music festival a while back. So I'm going to interview him again. But anyways, what I'm saying is like, I'm trying to partner with more organizations like that. Like right now, I just signed a contract with Quick Trip. So that's like our major, gas station chain. And they work with a lot of different, not just like influencers, but professional athletes and different people are part of their influencer team, just famous people. So being in their network and creating content with some of them is going to be fun. So I have some of that like lined up. But that's why I'm putting so much time and energy into my show. I'm kind of looking at it as this window of time over the winter of I can't go outside and paint anything. So I'll let painting kind of like be on the back burner of focus. I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it less because what I really want to do with it, I can't do. It's winter. Yeah. Can't do anything with my skate shop really because it's winter. So I'm just hunkering down and like focusing on that. Like I said, lining up with more.
Well, because you're two different, like three, but your two big ones here are like summer, spring, fall kind of areas, whereas your show could be.
Right. Well, and that's why I was telling my tattoo artist today too. He's a good friend of mine. He's been tattooing me for 14 years. So it's not just my tattoo artist, good friend of mine.
Right.
But, that's what I was telling him too about like, I'm using these cold days and this winter as just an excuse to hunker down and do the work I don't want to do.
Opportunities, buddy.
8 hours a day, understanding, okay, well, how does YouTube as a platform really work? Because my show, like, it's on all the platforms, but it started as a radio show. Like the first ever episode of my show premiered on the radio. It was always an audio show. It wasn't meant to be video. I didn't do video until way later down the road. And even then, when I started doing video, I only had one camera angle. And I only really did that so I could cut out clips. I didn't really try to push a YouTube channel at all. It
Wow.
wasn't until this past summer that I got 2 more cameras. So now I have 3 camera angles and lighting and the whole thing. But that was pretty recently that I actually was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on video as well now. So just trying to use this winter of like really diving in on all that stuff, making my show the best it possibly can be, recording a ton of interviews with cool people. Like I said, partnering with all the right organizations and kind of positioning myself in the right kind of way. So that's what you can expect if you go find me on Instagram, just Passion Pod, or if you search Passion Pod anywhere. That's the easiest way to find me. But there's a ton of interviews. I think I got like 6 big interviews currently that are edited that haven't came out yet.
They're ready to go. Yeah.
Episodes coming out every week. And I got more lined up. There'll be lots of stuff coming out. But for me, it'll mostly be podcast stuff, at least until the spring.
Yeah. That is awesome, man. I was going to ask you how you choose your guests, but it sounds like when people come through like big names, like you want to be the guy in that area, like not so much like people reaching out to you or anything like that, or like people trying to come from other places and stuff like that. Like, sounds like you're down to do other people's shows. Like you
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun. I love coming on other people's shows. It's always a good time.
This has been a fantastic show for me. And I'm
well, no, I mean, this has
so
been
much fun, dude.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I get to come on, do the fun part of the show and none of the negative stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Get to do the 2 hours of fun and not the 15 hours of bullshit.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so I like doing this stuff. Here's the thing: like people reach out to me all the time that want to be guests on the show. But if they're reaching out to me versus me reaching out to them, I'm not going to get the quality of interview I really want. Right? Like that's just probably going to be the case. So I interview people that are coming through the area. I went to LA and New York, and I do have networks out there, and I probably will go back out there. But that's just because I know one person who then has 10 other contacts in their cell phone. They could text right there. That would all be cool people.
Right on.
But me trying to position myself as more like the dude in the Midwest, it makes more sense to interview people that are coming through the Midwest.
Well, it also makes it easier for you. Like people come to you.
It does.
Than you.
Yeah, it does. But you'd be surprised. Like going to LA, it's pretty convenient because I'll just get a hotel room. And then if people know I'm only there for like these few days to do this thing, they usually work around my schedule and they'll come to my hotel room and I'll just
be doing podcasts every 2 hours.
Yeah. 4 interviews in a day one time out there. It's just like boom, 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 boom. Versus living here, I drove all the way to Appleton, which is a little over 3 hours one way for an interview. So that was an all goddamn day thing. It was not any more convenient than going to LA, you know? But I want to grow and focus more on the listenership and stuff of people in the Midwest. Right?
You want to hit your people. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, if I'm going to interview this guest, say they both have similar listenership to their music or whatever. And I do too many music interviews, like music artist interviews. That's not the topic of the show at all. It just happens to be what pops up more.
There's a lot of passion in there though.
Well, and they like to promote themselves. So they're easy to get a hold of typically. But like if they just performed in my area, it's much more likely that people are going to care about listening to it because a lot of the people who are in my audience, you know, Instagram or elsewhere, and stuff. Yeah, they're from my area. A lot of them. The most concentrated amount of my followers for my Instagram and stuff is in my area, from Eau Claire, the surrounding area, and Minneapolis. That's the most concentrated. And then I have listenership in LA and New York, but mostly it's in my area. So if they just saw this person come through and then paid to go see their show, hell yeah, they want to listen to the interview. Not only that, the organization also wants to push and promote that interview.
Yes, there you go.
It's more just the long-term vision of like, that's how I want to set myself up. So I look at the calendars of who's coming through, you know, whether it's for like a comedy club or if it's for a theater or if it's for a stadium or whatever. I try to keep in tune with like who is going to come through the area, even if it's not Eau Claire, if it's Minneapolis or Milwaukee or whatever, and then send a lot of messages to those types of people. And other people too, like sending messages to Green Bay Packers players or Minnesota Vikings players or, you know, professional athletes for the Minnesota Wild or the Twins or like, there's so many people, dude. It's just,
I bet those are fun.
Yeah. Pro athletes, they're cool. I've interviewed way more pro skateboarders than I should.
Yeah. I would love to talk to some skateboarders, man. I bet they're so much fun.
So rad, dude. The last one, was it the last one I interviewed? I don't know. One of the last ones I interviewed was Willie Santos, who is pro for Tony Hawk's company for 25 years.
Yeah.
Such a legend, dude. I grew up watching that dude and then getting to ask him about like how he started Birdhouse, like with Tony Hawk and everything. And then when Willie shared those clips of him like talking about Tony Hawk calling him to be on his company and stuff, you know, the clips that I cut and posted to social media, I saw the little thing on my notifications. Tony Hawk liked your video.
Whoa.
Yeah, he liked like 3 of them. Screenshotted that shit. I don't like fangirl
yes,
out
dude, bro. But for
shit,
Tony Hawk,
but
yes,
for Tony
dude.
Hawk, I was stoked. I know it was just a dumb little like, but for me, that was
so
like
huge, dude.
hell yeah. It was so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn,
Those ones are always fun.
Well, that is huge, man. So go ahead and tell everybody where they can find Passion Pod. It's on Spotify, Apple, Google, I'd imagine.
Yeah, if you look up
Podbean, all that
Passion Pod
stuff.
on whatever your search engine platform is, it'll pop up. Instagram is by far like the main social media platform that I use. I do read all of my DMs. If it's dumb, I don't respond, but I typically respond to DMs. You know,
and dumb is in the eye of the beholder.
They'll go into like my requests, but I still typically respond to everybody. I'm not that big that I don't respond to people.
You're a very nice guy. I will give you that. You're responding to me, and that's huge for me.
If people are taking their time to send me a message, I try to respond to them. So Passion Pod on Instagram, it's easy to find. Not Passion Podcast. Yeah, that's a different one. Look up just Passion Pod. It should be obvious that it's me if you look it up. But if you look that up, it'll be everywhere. YouTube now is the platform that I'm pretty fresh on, but it looks good. You said it. You saw the Sam Town episode. It's good, and that page will grow. So you can watch episodes if you want to watch full-length ones or clips or whatever on there. You can find me on TikTok. I think it's Passion Pod Official. I don't use that a ton, but it's Instagram and YouTube are the 2 platforms I'm really using. PassionPod.org on my website. You can order merchandise. You can.
You do have some sick merch, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, there's some cool stuff on there, man.
That's pretty dope, dude.
The graphic
I might have to cop a little bit.
The graphic designer that designed that, I actually knew since he was like 14. He was the little kid at the skate park when I was like 19. And all these years later, he does merchandise and stuff for me. And I interviewed him long time ago now. Super nice dude. But yeah, so passionpod.org has everything. There's my link to like my Patreon if you want access to episodes early, or if you just in general want to donate $5 a month to support me and what I do. Like that's an easy way to do it.
Just small for you, but huge for the individual, but huge for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, all that stuff helps. The big one, though, is just like sharing stuff on social media. Everyone always says that, but it does actually make a huge difference. You go listen to an episode or whatever and just comment on it, like and comment on it. Even if you're just like following each of us, and then every time we make a post, you drop a fire emoji, a comment.
Something.
Like, even like little things like that actually do help with the algorithm and all.
The algorithm speaks for itself, dude.
Yeah, it helps a lot. So yeah, if you find me on social media, find me on Instagram, hit me up if you have any questions about whatever, and listen to the show. Hopefully you like it. If you don't, stop listening to the show. Oh well.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, we'll miss you, but we won't be too fucked up about it, man.
Yeah. Whoops.
Well, Chris, it has been fantastic to have you. I'm gonna go ahead and let the people go, and I'm gonna let you go to sleep because I know you got to get the girls to school tomorrow.
Yeah, dude, this was at that time, but this was fun.
Yeah, but this has been awesome, man. The 69th episode of Detours, the 99th episode of the podcast. I can't imagine a better guest. It's been so long, and like the fact that like you honestly like you offered to me, which I would have never even asked you because I didn't even think I had a chance, is just so huge, man. Like I'm so honored to have you, dude. You are awesome.
This was fun, dude. Thank you very much. It was cool.
That's awesome, man. And with this episode will be out soon. I'll have it out on Thursday, which is Tuesday now. Doesn't mean anything to the people listening, but it means something to us.
Dope.
But you're awesome, man. Let's get these people out of here.
All right. Peace.
All right. See you, buddy.